Hi, my name is Andrea. I am a pregnant mom of 3 toddlers, and I'm due in the next few weeks. This is helpful for parents of 1 child, 2 children, 4 children, kids of all ages. I created this system to help me to not end up feeding my toddlers a Nutri-Grain bar every single day for breakfast. I understand there's black bars down the sides of this video, but if you can ignore that and just listen to the content, I think it'd be really helpful. It's one of my most popular highlights on my Instagram, and I hope that it helps you too. Feeding toddlers. I'm not a professional. In fact, I like following Kids Eat in Color and feeding littles. That's where I get a lot of my information. I even bought the Feeding Little course, which has helped me a lot with meal planning. But as much as it has helped me, thank you, sweetheart, it is still very hard. And I get really overwhelmed unless I write down literally everything. Breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, meal, because then I scramble. So I have written down... Sorry, I had to listen to a story. So on my wall I have, for the last year, I need to update it. It's been a whole entire year. I don't really reference it anymore at all, but when I was really drowning, I referenced it a lot. Why is your hand soaking wet? But now that they're a little older and a little more adventurous, I can typically make things and they'll try and eat them, especially if it's even just slightly familiar. But even just a year ago, I had to make the exact same things over and over and cut them the exact same way because then they wouldn't eat. So let me show you the thing I've got going on here. This used to be on a notebook, but I've got it on a chalkboard thing now. It came from Amazon. I've written the times here. We still don't stick to a schedule. This is, I don't know, I wrote this in an attempt and it totally failed. We wake up whenever we wake up and then we eat breakfast whenever it is that we wake up. I don't have them on, I probably should, but I don't have them on schedule. Okay, so then I've written Monday through Tuesday. I've written breakfasts, the snacks are in orange, lunches are in green, and the purplish color, pinkish purple is dinner. And this was what I did every single day, the exact same way. So, for instance, toast and a cup of yogurt was breakfast. Then they had cereal and drops. These are the freeze-dried yogurt drops. I tried to spread out the kind of snacks they had from this day, and here it is over here again, cereal and drops. So sometimes yogurt is breakfast, sometimes it's a snack. But I started by writing in a notebook everything my kids would eat, which was a very small list. Literally, the only things my kid would eat are these things. So I wrote them down. Then I tried to form a menu based off of those things that I knew they would eat. They don't eat Costco chicken. This is a little Costco chicken sandwich, like a ready-made. You microwave it for 30 seconds, and it had like a breaded chicken in it and cheese, and that's basically it in bread. These are the things that my kids would eat. Muffin tin mash, it was always a hit. That's why I've got it twice. I would go in my pantry, I would grab a muffin tin, and I would just sprinkle all kinds of random pantry items in the muffin tin. Sorry, none of my stories are ever consecutive because I have screaming toddlers and there's pasta on the floor and a couple meltdowns later. Here we are. So I try to take a list of all the foods they eat and make a menu out of that. Then I would make that week after week after week. He lost his yellow dice down the back of the couch cushion. That's all that was. Isn't that crazy how hard they scream over crazy stuff like that? Okay. So after I fed them the exact same thing over and over and over again for a week, I would start to get a little crazy. Sometimes I would cut the toast diagonally. Sometimes I would cut it into strips. Sometimes horizontally. I would start changing the size of the pancake sometimes. I'd make little tiny pancakes. Sometimes I'd make bigger pancakes. Sometimes the waffle would be, a blueberry one, frozen Eggo waffle, and then the home style one. Sometimes the bagel would have strawberry cream cheese, and sometimes it would have just plain cream cheese. So I started changing things just a little bit. So the key with exposing your kids to things, during mealtime, you want to give them something that they eat, something you know that they love, and you want to make sure that there's plenty of that provided. Then you want to expose them to a carrot, but you don't want to put an entire carrot on the plate. I would shred a carrot and put a single strand of shredded carrot on their plate. If it's too much, they get overwhelmed and they're like, I would never touch that. But if it's just a tiny little thing, like for Josiah when he finally ate broccoli, I picked off a little tiny, it was like this big, a little tiny bit of broccoli I would put on his plate now and again. I've been doing that for a very long time. And people will tell you, just make a meal, and if they don't eat it, that's tough. Then you make a snack, and if they don't eat it, that's tough. But if you actually want to survive, and if you actually don't want to go fucking insane, use the tactic where you provide them something on the plate that you know they will eat and love. So for instance, let me backtrack. I'm all for a realistic approach, okay? So if you give your kid a brand new breakfast, brand new lunch, brand new, and they're not eating anything, okay, that's just gonna make them melt down all day long. Then they're gonna be too over hungry to even think about processing to eat. Then you're gonna be screaming at them. They're gonna be throwing tantrums. You're gonna be like, what's wrong with you? And then you're like, you should have eaten your whatever I just gave you, right? And then you don't even give them a chance. So if you actually want to survive motherhood in a way that's not going to make the children or you insane, you have to be practical. This is real mom stuff, not, I'm gonna give them quinoa. And if they don't eat quinoa, then that's tough. For snack, we're having turnips. So pick something you know they like, at least one thing, so that they'll at least eat something, so that they're not tyrannical all day long. So for the toast, so say I'd like to start getting them to eat breakfast cereal, and they don't eat breakfast cereal. So I want them to start eating Rice Krispies, because sometimes I just want to pour some Rice Krispies in a bowl and have them eat it, but they don't know what a Rice Krispie is. So I would put with their toast and cup of yogurt. Wow, why does my camera keep doing that? I would put one single grain of rice cereal, like a what are they called? Rice Krispies. For days, I would just put a random rice grain of cereal, and then they might eat it. And then the next day, I would put a little bit more. So I would slowly start adding little tiny things to their basic menu, so they were never overwhelmed with anything that I give them. I'd give them one tiny little vegetable, or one tiny little fruit, or one tiny little random something I'd like them to start eating, and that's how we do exposure. And then to spice up my life and theirs, I would use this menu to add variety, finally. Like when they became more adventurous eaters, I would sometimes make a blueberry pancake or a pumpkin pancake. So I didn't even really have to think of it. I already had a menu created, and then I could just start adding variety by making this a different kind of pancake, or by making shredded hash browns, or cubed hash browns, or the little hash brown patties that you put in the air fryer. Or sometimes it would be a link sausage or a patty sausage. I would use this menu as a base, so I never had to think about it. I never had to become overwhelmed, and I would just make a variant of what was already here. A lemon poppy seed muffin, and some other, carrot muffin, whatever. Apple sauce muffin, banana muffin, and grilled cheese. I would make it sometimes with a different colored cheese, different kind of bread, and whatever else. So I have this basic menu created so that I never had to think about what I was going to feed them. I could get a little creative if I wanted. Otherwise, I would just pull the same old toast out that I always pull out on days that I just could not deal, and I would just make the blue box mac and cheese on days I could not deal. Otherwise, I would get super creative and change this, just enough that it would add variety to their lives. Now, they're a little bit older, and I have tried to be a little bit overzealous and make some dishes that they've never seen before, and they sit down and they're like, they're not eating that. Like, I totally underestimated. So I do need to move a bit slower. I was getting excited. I was like, let's try some gyros with tzatziki sauce. And they're just sitting there like, what the f-? But if you make them gyros, make sure you put a chicken nugget there also, and just a tiny bit of gyro, okay? And then if they say, I would like more chicken nuggets, make sure you give them more chicken nuggets, even if they don't touch the gyro. It's not about forcing them to eat something that they don't want to eat. It is your job to provide the food, and it's their job to choose to eat it. It's really that simple. But as simple as that is, it still makes you insane. Let's not even lie about that. A couple of things that'll throw you off is teething. Josiah used to eat and then pocket it. He would put it in his cheek, and he would run around the house with a mouthful. We could not get it out of his mouth. That's what Josiah did. He would pocket the food. So if you start seeing really weird habits, tantrums being thrown, Jeremiah, during mealtime, and you're like, what is your issue? It's probably teeth, so don't sweat it. JL's starting to take bites of food and then go, ha, 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 and then wants you to pick it out of her mouth. And then she'll take another bite of the exact same thing and go, ha, 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 and wants you to pick it out of her mouth. It's her molars coming in. So molars can absolutely ruin your life. And then just when you think they start eating well, you're like, what's going on? It's probably molars. Also, and just when you think they've got all their molars in their teeth, they've got more molars that come around about 3 years old. Our kids got theirs at 2.5 years old. I see your teapot, honey. And then you're going to think, my kid eats everything. Are they under the age of 2? Because they will eat everything. I was like, Josiah is such a good eater. And then he turned 2, and I was like, what the? And maybe there's a 3-year-old out there that'll eat everything. I've never met one. In fact, I like to tell the story about the nutritionist that I follow. Her daughter, a nutritionist, a dietary specialist specializing in little kid eating, right? Couldn't get her daughter to eat berries for like 8 months or something like that.
if she can't get her daughter to eat berries, like a professional, with all the degrees, all the tools, all the knowledge, then don't feel bad that your kid's not eating a muffin. Yes, there's Josiah there. Why is that scary? Hopefully that gives you some ideas. I didn't have the capacity to write down a new menu every single week at all a year ago. The ages of them couldn't do it. That's why I wrote this permanent solution that I never had to think about ever again. And I'm like, literally every single Wednesday, we're going to have the exact same waffle and eggs. Every single Wednesday. For the rest of your life, right? I had this permanent menu and I never had to think about it. That's how I made it through, because I couldn't write a menu every week. Now, I have time and I can write a menu every week and it's fun. I like to do that. So that's how I'm doing that now. And I hope this gave you ideas. There's lots of information to be gleaned from those Instagram accounts that I follow. They sell toddler programs, baby programs to get your kid to eat and stuff. But if you watch their highlights enough and you read their posts enough, it pretty much gives you an idea as to what you need to be doing without having to pay for their course. Okay? And I'm here for some questions. I'm failing miserably in lots of these areas. I just like to act like I know what I'm talking about. So if you want to ask me, I'm here.